Alright, this is TBZ with Peach Review and everything. I'm actually cosplaying Perfect Cell today, so I don't know, anybody want to know and everything. I am with...
my name is Charlie Gilchrist.
And what game are we playing today?
It's a game called Ribbiting Saga.
Ribbiting Saga, man, okay, now looking at this game and everything, it looks like... It reminds me of Chrono Trigger with a little bit of Mario RPG, but I feel more of a Link to the Past and everything. So it's basically reminding me of Super Nintendo. Where did you get the inspiration for this game?
Yeah, so I mean, the first game I ever played as a kid was Link to the Past. Yeah, exactly. I love Mega Man X. I love Super Metroid. Super Nintendo is by far my favorite. By far my favorite console. So it's just my whole life is Super Nintendo. Like it's just everything. Like everything I love. I listen to Super Nintendo remixes in the car. I listen to Chrono Trigger all the time. I mean, Chrono Trigger is probably the one of the best RPGs I've ever played, and Mario RPG is definitely, standout classic in my mind. So, I mean, yeah, just like you said, I mean, it's super inspired by everything from the Super Nintendo.
Cool. So what's the story behind this game?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been making games my whole life. This game in particular, I have been searching for a long time, trying to figure out how to make a game that, I could make with a really small team of people. So we have 3 people on this. It's just me doing programming, art, and production basically, and design. And then all the background art was done by my girlfriend, and then all the music was done by a good friend of mine. And with a team that small, the question you have is like, how do you make something that is high quality, that people want to play, that's new and different, and can also be made by that small of a team with no professional experience, making games, right? I mean, the only professional experience I have is I'm a software engineer by trade, so I do that professionally. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, there's a really interesting question you have with that. Like, how do you make something you want to make, but that's also marketable? It's really hard to figure out. With this, my idea behind it was, okay, well, let me just make something that only has like 4 bosses, because bosses are really important to me in video games. It's the best part. But how do I make it so that you want to play the bosses multiple times and in different orders and everything? And that's kind of where everything stemmed from. And the whole concept of the game actually started getting made on a Christmas trip to Louisiana last year, where my sister lives. And so I had a basic idea for the game, and I told my girlfriend, I said, hey, while we're driving, take out a pad and a pencil and just write everything I say. Mm-hmm. And, we just started talking, like, okay, well, what would the world be like? How would the game work? What would the characters be? Why would they work this way? What are the mechanics tied to each character? Why do the boss fights work this way? What kind of world would it be? And we just, it was 8 hours there, 8 hours back. So it was 16 hours of this. And we did it. We filled a whole notebook with a bunch of notes and just ideas. And by the time we got back, we had the whole game laid out, exactly what we wanted. And so we just started working on it. And anytime there was something we didn't know how to do, we just learned. I mean, I've been learning my whole life how to make games, but this was the fastest I've ever done this. It was just every day, the biggest thing I've been telling everybody today that's been asking is, if you want to make a game, do something with it every single day. Because as long as you keep making little bits of progress, eventually you'll look back and you have a whole game made.
Nice. So what's the story about Ribbiting Saga? Like, what's the way to say this right? Like, what is Ribbiting Saga about? Like, what is
So Ribbiting Saga, it's essentially about a guy who, well, I guess a whole kingdom that's been cursed by an evil villain who's actually like held within a mask. Mm-hmm. It's like a cursed mask that's like super powerful artifact that someone accidentally puts on, which lets this evil that's inside of it out. And the guy that's been trapped inside this for a really long time is, he's gone mad being in there for hundreds of thousands of years. So he's completely crazy and maniacal. And he just decides, okay, I'm going to steal his princess for reasons that are explained later. It's not as cut and dry and, simple as it sounds. And just because he thinks it's funny, he turns everybody into animals. So, yeah, I'm just going to curse everybody, mess with everybody's life, it'll be hilarious. I'm going to take the 4 strongest people in the kingdom, completely mind control them and make them mine, and this is my place now, so suck it. And so he takes over the place, and you're a knight who's a really good fighter, but doesn't have any sort of special magic weapons that everybody else has. So you get turned into a frog, and all the strongest heroes in the land are gone. Mm-hmm. So the question is, well, who's gonna do this now? So the king turns to you and says, hey, you're the only person we have, and we have a solution to this. So all these people are so strong because they have these magic artifacts. He said, well, there's one left that no one has, and it's this magic gauntlet. And the one thing it can do is it can steal the powers of other magic artifacts. So it gives it to you. So your task now is to go and find these people who used to be your friends that are now mind controlled, somehow get stronger than them, beat them, take their power, and use those powers to beat the rest of them. And then eventually get strong enough that you can go and fight the villain at the end.
Cool. And I guess once again, man, because I know you told me that trip to Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
You said like you guys had 16 hours, basically brainstorming and everything.
Yeah.
So in the real long term or whatever, how long did it actually take three of you guys to actually make this game with the coding, illustration, and music and everything?
Yeah, so we've been working on it, like I said, since December. Right when we got back from the trip, we immediately started working. For about 3.5 months, what we did was we just worked on what do we want the characters to look like, what do we want the music to sound like, what do we want the gameplay to feel like. And there, it was just like a little square level with the little rat that you see in the demo just moving around. And just having him move around and letting you fight him and saying, okay, well, what feels good, what feels bad, how do we tweak the art, what kind of workflow do we want for the art that we can actually produce at scale and make a lot of it, but it still looks good and feels good. And we figured that out after about 3.5 months. So at this point, about, I guess, 2 to 2.5 months ago, we started on making all the art and writing all the code and everything from scratch that you see right there. So really, this has only taken us about 2.5 months to produce from scratch, but there was 3.5 months of pre-production figuring out what's going on.
Not bad, man. Not bad. And when can we see this game, A Ribbiting Saga?
Yeah, so the plan for it is to come out hopefully this time next year. That does hinge on us getting some sort of funding or publishing that allows me to quit my job that I'm doing full-time currently.
Hey, man, we all do that.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is, in the next month or two to get the dungeon built out a little more, and to really, use a lot of the footage and stuff we've gathered here today as well to really make a case for how good of a game it really is. Send it to publishers, get the best deal we can.